Hi friends, my name's Rich and welcome to episode 1 of the Movement podcast. In this first series, we're going to be looking at creative ways that you can make an impact. It really reflects our heart here at Movement to engage, equip and empower people to be all that God has called them to be. We're going to be chatting to some good friends of ours who are leading the ways in creativity. And what better place to start than by sending Matt off to have a chat with our good friend Dan Blythe at Hillsong London.
Welcome back to the Movement podcast, guys. We're here today with Dan Blythe from Hillsong. Dan, it's great to have you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for joining us. I say joining us, we're actually in your studio here. It's quite snazzy, quite lovely.
Thank
Those
you.
listeners won't be able to...
I made this myself.
You made it yourself,
Yeah.
That's lovely. Those listening,
Put that there.
it's I don't know how to describe it. It's plastered on, it's snazzy, it's a bit abstract, it's out there, but we like it. Dan, we're going to open with a game, and I know I've played this with you before, so I know you're quite good at it, but we're going to play it one more time. We're going to play 2-minute testimonies, where we'd love to hear your testimony in 2 minutes. No pressure, there is a countdown timer,
Yeah.
and I'm going to start that in 3, 2,
All right.
1.
Okay, so testimony in 2 minutes. When I was 11 years old, mum and dad got divorced, and separately they both encountered God and started going to church, which was cool. Started taking me to church at age 11. All I heard though was the rules: don't do this, don't do that, not allowed this, that. So I was like, okay, it's not for me. Teenage years, far from God, pretty messy. Age 18, went backpacking to Australia to just live life to the full. Met a couple of Christians, and they looked like me, sounded like me on the outside, just normal people, but they lived for something much greater, something much bigger. And when I've just asked them, why do you live the way you live, they simply said, it's Jesus. You got to come along to church, you got to experience him. And so I did. I went along to a Sunday service. I tell you, the message was good, the worship was cool, but it was seeing Jesus in their lives, which was the most attractive thing to me. And I knew I wanted what they had. Gave my life to Christ. Best decision ever.
There you go, mate. You smashed that before you even got to
Thanks,
1
mate.
minute.
Yeah.
Which means we're not going to hear your theme tune, your little playtime, but I can play that
Let's
for you
just play it
anyway.
Yeah, I chose this. Took me a little while preparing it, but this would be the alarm, which I think is the alarm for 2020.
Copyright strike right there. Sweet. Dan, that's so good to hear your testimony. You're now here at Hillsong. It's been quite a journey. You've been here for quite a while. You've done life together. You've done family with these guys. Can you tell us a bit about the story behind that, I guess?
Yeah. So got saved 18, did Bible college out in Australia, came back to England when I was 21 because all I wanted to do was just help one young person encounter God's love, just because I knew what it was like to be a teenager without it. And then I was flicking through Christianity magazine at the job section at the back, because I didn't know any churches, I didn't know any pastors in England. And so I saw jobs advertised in the back, and then there was one, how would you like to help lead a youth ministry in Canterbury? And so I was like, why not? Went for an interview, and the interview was all right, but the second half of the interview was going to Pizza Hut with 20 young people, and those young people just broke my heart. I loved it, so said yes to the job. Did that for 4 years. And then I met my wife at Soul Survivor, and she was there. We actually met in Cafe Uno, which is the cafe where you find the one. So if you're not hanging out in Cafe Uno, what are you doing? I know, Matt, you're looking for a...
I probably need to spend a bit more time around there, yeah.
Soul Survivor's actually stopped now, so... anyway, I'm sure there's other methods of finding someone. Anyway, so I met Charlie, and then we started getting serious, and we started dating, and then... she was at Hillsong, and obviously I was a youth pastor at another church, and she was adamant she was not going to leave Hillsong because she'd really found a sense of home, really found a sense of family. And for me, I knew I could go to any church and be able to serve and call it home. And so I started going to Hillsong with her, and then just kind of fell in love with the community, just like she did. Like there is no perfect church. Hillsong's far from perfect, but it's a place where it's okay to make mistakes and keep pressing to Jesus. So yeah, man, love it. It's home.
Yeah, and is it nine years now?
This September I would have been on staff for 10 years, and so I've been part of church, I think, for about 11 years now. Yeah,
brilliant. I mean, that's commitment. That's doing life together. That's doing family. And throughout that time, you've done a few things. You've done youth, and the episode today we're looking at creativity. What's the journey, I guess, and how do they link?
Yeah, man. So yes, I mean, I started off doing New Christians, and then I did the 25 plus community, and then I looked over our youth and young adult community, and then last couple of years I stepped into more of our creative department, And the reason really was because when I was looking after youth, there was a lot of young people, very creative, and we just created loads of opportunities for them to grow in their creativity. So whether it's video, photography, graphic design, music, all that kind of stuff. And then from there, I guess I started working in an area which I really enjoyed, and then got asked to step into doing it for Big Church. And so that's what I do now. But I think creativity is something which every human being has got an opportunity to grow in and develop. I think God created human beings in his image, and God is creative. He created heavens and the earth without a Pinterest board. God is creative, and when we are creative, we actually reflect the characteristics of our Father. So if there's anyone listening and you think, I'm not creative, what you're probably thinking is that you're not artistic. But there's lots of different ways that you can be creative. You can be an accountant and create sums and spreadsheets. You can be a single parent and create a dinner for your kids. There's always opportunities for creativity, and I think we give glory to God when we do that.
Yeah, mate, I love the whole created by the Creator to be creative, and as you say, we're made in His image, and that's got to reflect in our lives. And I guess Media Collective. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because that is a group of, I guess we're all creative, but that's a group of people really going after it and passionate about that.
Totally, yeah. So when I stepped into this role, there was an incredible team that I got to work with. But I realised there's loads of people within the industry, people who work for like Adidas and Burberry, working on films and stuff, who come along to church, but they don't really have time or capacity to maybe, let's just say, serve on a Sunday. And so we just sort of said, well, how can we serve these guys who are sort of in the industry? It's not always the easiest industry to be part of. How can we serve them and love them? And so we launched the Media Collective for that. It's a community of creatives, and it's just to find all these guys within the life of church and even people outside of church, and just create a space for them to be encouraged and supported and overcome the fear of failure and do things that they've never done before. So that's how Media Collective started.
And how's it been going? Like, any cool projects you're currently working on, or is it just a game of growing and just an open space, I guess?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, every time we gather, there's always different collaborations taking place. So, people will come, and then a graphic designer will meet a videographer, and then they'll start working on a project. So, there's loads of cool things that happen. But for us, we get to work on things like Cross Equals Love, which is our Easter campaign. How are we going to tell all of London or the UK, maybe, where we have locations, like how are we going to tell them, that the cross doesn't equal finger pointing, you're not good enough. The cross doesn't equal, every religious image that you have in your head. The cross equals love. So together with all our artists and creatives, we get to come up with a brainstorming idea of how we get to portray that message to the people around us. So we get to work on some fun things.
Yeah, I love that. And what's it like to be part of the team? Because I guess from the outside looking in, people may see Hillsong London and all the snazzy stuff going on, like all these big, flashy, incredible things that really are incredible. And I've been to Hillsong New York myself. My dad, who's not a Christian, he loved it because he felt just in awe of what was going on. And from the outside looking in, that can seem a bit almost mind-blowing. But actually, it's a team of people. It's a team that you gather with and do life with. What's that sort of look like?
Yeah. I'll just wait for the police car to go past. Are they here for you?
I hope not.
I mean, for us, the goal is never, let's be flashy, let's be cool. There's not one meeting I've ever sat in where it's like, how can we be cooler? How can we be edgier? How can we be this? It's always like, these are the people that we're trying to communicate to. These are the people we're trying to reach. What could we do which is going to be attractive? What's going to represent authenticity? And it's really just, we put our heart and soul into spending time with God. Really, because He's the source of imagination at the end of the day. People can go to Pinterest and Instagram, but like spending time with God, nothing beats that. And we're saying, God, what are you saying? What do you want us to be able to create? And then after spending time with God, again, we just put everything into making what we do as excellent as possible. And I think that's maybe where stuff gets misinterpreted, because people might come to Hillsong and say it's snazzy, but we're never trying to be snazzy. We're just trying to do things which are authentically attractive and at the highest level of excellence that we can. And if you go to the world's best restaurants, Michelin star restaurants, or you go to the world best theme park, Disneyland, or you go to the world best anything, the world best computer company, is it Apple, Microsoft, who knows? But the thing that all of those different industries have got in common is that they operate at a very high level of excellence, and they do it, so that they've got the best product. They do it for money, they do it for their reputation. But I think for us as Christians, we should be putting things out as excellent as we can, because we're not doing it for our glory, we're doing it for God's glory. I think the reason we do it is to show really value on the people that we're trying to encourage and inspire. We're extra mile people. Steve Jobs says the extra mile is a place full of opportunity, and he says not many people go there because it's a lonely place. It is true, the extra mile is a place full of opportunity, but I don't think it should be a lonely place, because I think we should all go there together. The funny thing is that Steve Jobs is quoting Jesus. Jesus says in Matthew 5 verse 41, if someone asks you to go the extra mile, go for them 2 miles. So the extra mile isn't the extra mile if someone asks you to do something. If I said, Matt, do you mind, taking out the rubbish for me today? You might be like, yeah, sure, Dan, I can give you a hand with that. But that's not the extra mile, because I've asked you to do that. The extra mile is something where you've chosen, like if you just took the rubbish out without me even asking, like that's extra mile, because you've chosen to go above and beyond. You've chosen to lift the bar of excellence. And I think when we all as individuals look at what we've got in our hand, and our responsibility is to take that to the next level by going at the extra mile, lift the level of excellence, I think there's a lot of great stuff that comes from that. And as long as it's not for our name, it's not for Hillsong's name, it's always, for God and his house, and hopefully so people are reached and encouraged.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, seeking his glory above anything else, kingdom first. And if that's the principle behind it, then who's to question it? But I guess that in itself there are a lot of questions around creativity in church and creatives, and a lot of churches out there where it's not a prominent place, there's not really much going on. And I guess we've touched on it a bit, but why would you say it's so important, especially at this time and in this generation, to have creatives in the church? If
you think right back to when the Catholic Church pulled together in what's it called, what's the big square called in Rome?
Over in the Vatican.
The Vatican, yeah. But like, if you think when Michelangelo painted the Sixtine Chapel, that was creativity there, and the reason is to try and depict or to show God's glory, to just show just how magnificent He is. And so since the beginning of time till today, all of it is just to show God's wonder and God's glory. So there should always be a place for creatives to keep doing that. The thing is, the technology always changes, so that's always going to look differently. So the stained glass windows back in the day, that was art, and that was there to tell a story, that was there to inspire. The organ was an incredible instrument which was there to give glory to God for us in worship. So what's happened over time is just technology and the instruments have changed, but sometimes we get very clingy to the instruments, we get very clingy to the method, and we won't let go of it. But the key is just to keep letting go of the method and holding on to the message. Message is the one of faith, hope and love. It's truth and grace, that will never change, but we hold on to the message and just allow everything else to change. And so who knows what creativity will look like in the future. Because of the digital age, we've got so much opportunity to create, with everything online now. And the interesting thing is that young people, when I chat to them about what do you want to do when you're older, a lot of people want to create stuff. They want to do photography, because everyone's got a camera on their phone now. And Adidas, their latest slogan is, "You are the creators." So Adidas is selling their product by telling this generation that you are all creators. But the thing is, that language is the church's language, it's God's language, it's we are all creators and we get to create. And so now we're just really just jumping on the back of what the world is already talking about, but the world was never meant to be talking about it before the church. It was always meant to be the church, I believe, which is the wellspring of imagination and innovation and creativity. And it's a shame that if we feel like it has dipped or been lost, it's a shame that that's happened.
Yeah, and I love the idea of actually the message never changes, but the method it's always been changing. And with where we're at with creatives now, it draws people in. There's no doubt about it. And we've seen at our events, like when we see our creatives get let loose and they can create the content that we want to advertise and really entice people in. And especially those who are not Christians, I can see the attraction in light of what we think church might be, and then the reality of where we're really at. That's really exciting. And I think we've probably got a lot of listeners who really get that concept. They really grasp that and perhaps have a heart for that. But where they're at right now, they might be in a small, maybe even rural church where they're the only ones who care about getting their cameras out, making any form of content. And I guess what's the encouragement to them? What's the sort of advice to pursue that?
Yeah, I think it's always no matter where you're creating, the job is to always serve, I think, the leadership of the church. And I would never want to create something which my pastor doesn't see value on, or doesn't doesn't see it as something that's going to help the people. So I'd always, if I was a creative in the church, I'd be trying to have a coffee with one of the leaders and say, how do you feel like our creativity can serve this church, and what can we do just to take it one step further? Like, you don't need to have like a LED plasma with like an amazing film, on the first Sunday. It might just be a step towards something. So just be like, what's the next step for you? Like, is it designing a poster, or is it designing something to go on a website, or is it to design something on social media? But just looking at what the next step is, and not trying to do something which is separate to what the actual vision of the church is about, but the creatives working alongside the visionaries of the church, and seeing how that collaboration together can enable something to happen which hasn't happened in the future. It hasn't happened before. That's the power of collaboration. So Adidas, which was started by Adi Dassler, 1949, he was selling Adidas trainers, maximum like £80, but then he collaborated with Kanye West, created the Adidas Yeezys. Adidas Yeezys start at about £250 now, go for about £1,000. It's a power collaboration. Allows you to do what you could not do before, go to a place that you've not been before. And so if the visionary of the church is working alongside the creatives who are going to be really painting the picture of really what the church is meant to be doing, which is serving people, helping people, looking after the poor, how does that collaboration take place? And if it doesn't, maybe the next step is trying to set that up so you guys can start creating.
Yeah, I love that. And I think when you do step out there, and then this conversation we've had before, talking about success and failures and what defines you and what doesn't. When you step out there, you give it a go, it doesn't quite go right. What's the advice there?
Failure is just part of life, and I think typically as Christians, we think that everything has to be perfect all the time, and it's always going to work out, and if it hasn't worked out, God's definitely not in it. But I can't find that anywhere in the Bible. I see Joseph when he was 13 years old getting sold into slavery, and then when he was 30 years old, 17 he was sold into slavery, 30 years old he became prime minister. So he went through 13 years of just different levels of whether he was in prison or whether he was a slave, like different levels of hardship. And I think, that's life. There's going to be successes and there's going to be failures, but the keys is don't let success go to your head, and don't let the failures go to your heart. There's always going to be mistakes, but that's part of it. That's how you learn, that's how you grow. What happens is you failed normally, typically, and because of the pain, the embarrassment, the emotion of failing, that cocoons us and puts us in a wall where we don't want to try again. We don't want to take risks anymore because we don't want to feel that pain again. So we live inside our comfort zone. We always make excuses. Oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that because of da-da-da-da. But every time we make excuses, that's just revealing that you have the fear of failure. So I believe God is looking for pioneers who are going to break out the mold of your comfort zone, who are going to try things that haven't been tried. And when they fail, when they don't work out, be like, yeah, great, we had a go. I'd rather be someone who is always having a go than someone who's just never having a go and living in my comfort zone,
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I guess as we come towards the end, is there any final advice you want to give to the creators out there? Any final words of wisdom or insight that you really want to share on your heart?
I think whenever I jump on a plane, I have zero tolerance for the pilot failing. Zero. Like, I'm not cool with the pilot failing. And if my wife was going to have heart surgery, I'd have zero tolerance for the surgeon to fail on the heart surgery. So there are areas in life where there is zero tolerance to fail. But you got to understand, the pilot and the surgeon hardly ever fail because they've had many, many years of training. They've had at least 7 years of training. And what happens over the training is that they try, fail, and then eventually they get to a level where they hardly ever fail. So my word to all the creators out there is just like, you are in training, and your training might be 7 months, it might be 7 years, it might be 17 years. Don't limit the training season. But obviously the longer you're in it, the less you fail. I've been on staff 10 years now, and I feel like I still make mistakes, but I'm making a lot less mistakes than I did right at the beginning, because that's what happens. You learn from your mistakes. And so, to all the creators out there, just enjoy creating and enjoy being in training. And right now you're taking your flight, you're in a flight simulator, you're not flying the plane, you've got a test body, you're not actually doing a surgery on a human being, so just chill out, just relax. Have these events and have a smile on your face and have the joy, when you're creating stuff, because sometimes a lot of pressure, just gets, a lot of pressure comes from ourselves, because we've got the fear of failure. But like if we just relax and enjoy it and enjoy failing and allow it to move through it, then there's no limit to what we can create.
Yeah. Where can people check out the Media Collective, what you've got going on? Stay hooked up and LinkedIn.
If you're on Instagram, Media Collective London is on Instagram, or you can just check it out on the Hillsong website, hillsong.co.uk/MCL, I think it is.
Brilliant.
Might be wrong, but it might be that. You can Google it.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks for that, Matt. There we have it. Dan Blythe encouraging us to simply have a go. So we've got 3 questions in order to take the conversation a bit further for you. Number 1, what can you do creatively to serve your church? How can you go the extra mile? Are there ways in which you can break the mold and step out of your comfort zone? That's it for now, friends. On our next episode, we're going to be talking to Chris Geisey from We Are Tearfund, all about justice ministry, how we can take small steps that make a big difference in the world around us. Until then, see you soon and take care.